Good morning. Welcome to RSBN Live. It is Tuesday, April 29th. You're looking live at the White House press briefing room. Of course, we saw just yesterday a press conference at the same time with border czar Tom Homan, this time with the Secretary of the Treasury Department, Scott Bessent, to highlight over the past 100 days all of the great accomplishments within the economy. So we'll be seeing that. We'll be hearing about those accomplishments coming up here shortly. Thanks so much for joining us, as today is Rally Day as well in America, this time Michigan edition. So that is going to be awesome. We're going to have coverage starting at 12 p.m. Eastern time from Michigan. Robert McNeely, Megan Kohler, they're live interviewing We the People, the great patriots of this country, outside of that venue. And then we'll be hearing President Trump speak later in the day. But it's going to be all-day coverage right here on Right Side Broadcasting Network. All of it brought to you by a number of great sponsors and your donations. But this sponsor is Colonial Metals Group, freegoldguide.com/RSBN. freegoldguide.com/RSBN. If you're looking for more information on gold and silver as a backup to maybe your retirement and savings, you can always go to freegoldguide.com/RSBN. A great sponsor here, Colonial Metals Group. You'll be hearing more about this company a bit later in the broadcast. And also out there in Michigan, again, today is Rally Day. As you know, this has been a great 100 days. As you guys know, 100 days of success specifically for this White House and in turn for this country. We've seen so many great exploits and so many great accomplishments. There's many to go over, including yesterday kicking it off with the southern border and shoring up that border and bringing more safety and bringing more law and order as our government continues to do great things. And that's not something you hear every day. That sentence right there, our government doing great things. And that's what's happening with President Trump, because he, as you guys know, he's an outsider. He's just getting the job done with common sense and for the American people, along with many others that are supporters of President Trump, whether in some places there in Washington, D.C., of course, his cabinet team and others there. But around the country, everybody has gone to a new level of, hey, you know what? We're not going to be establishment anymore, or in the sense of I'm going to distance myself from the establishment, because that's not the way of the people. That's not the way of winning elections. That's just a losing way. So we see a winner in chief, President Donald J. Trump. As it's 8:17 this morning, Tuesday, April 29th. We're awaiting this press conference, which will start about 15 or maybe 10 minutes from now. It's 8:30 will be the time that it's slated to start. So right around there, we'll take it full in its entirety for you. And then again at 12 o'clock Eastern time, we'll be going to Michigan for a different broadcast, a different stream to click on for Rally Day in America. All right, so all this as President Trump has accomplished more in 100 days than any previous administration did in 4, even to 8 years. Can you believe that? 100 days. That's only about 3 months and change. Compare that to 4 years. President Trump has done more that is actually helping the American people. It's great to see it. We're going to hear the highlights of it from the economy coming up here shortly. This is as the commander-in-chief operates in Trump speed, or at Trump speed. We've seen it pedal to the metal since day one, January 20th, 2025, when more than 6 million people tuned into Right Side Broadcasting Network for that inauguration coverage. And then, since then, can you believe it's been 100 days? Some are saying today's 99, tomorrow's 100. It doesn't matter. 100 days since President Trump has taken the oath of office and is now the commander-in-chief. More than 140 executive orders already signed, all for the American people, all common sense, all spot on. Pretty awesome to see that. On the other side of the aisle, President Trump saying, quote, "The polls from the fake news are, like the news itself, fake. We are doing great, better than ever before." And I almost, Director, if we could just keep that up there just for a little longer, just in case anybody on the left is watching, not to start an argument, not to start a fight, but just to say, this is true. What he is saying right there are facts, 100%, not 99.9%. The polls from the AP, ABC News, Washington Post, they're fake. They're coming from them. And then they come out and they say, oh, the president doesn't have the support of the American people with his fast, ways of working in the government. Like, no, that's fake news. Those are lies, right? So the polls from the fake news are, like the news itself, fake. So we have freedom of speech to speak like this. In other countries, if we did this, it might be a little bit different. But what we're hoping for is more freedom throughout the world. But we have it right now here in this country through President Trump, and hopefully through another commander-in-chief as we move forward that would be on the right side of history, whether that's 45 through 47, 48, who knows. But we do know that we have a great president in the White House, and we have a lot more time left. I mean, it's only been 100 days, so there's a lot more time left in this White House. So great post there by President Trump. Also, President Trump on Truth Social earlier in the week saying this is a crucial week to work on the one big, beautiful bill. All right, so it will contain massive tax cuts, strong border security measures, major military advancements, dramatic deregulation, powerful spending reforms, and more. We will unleash economic prosperity and accelerate into the golden age of America, make America great again. So that post from President Trump earlier, that post, of course, from earlier this morning, about 8 hours ago. Took that screenshot a little bit ago. But again, so it's great to see always the president on point with everything he says on whether it's X or Truth Social, or when he's doing a speech like tonight. It's going to be great to see him in Michigan. Again, today is a rally day in America. If you're just joining us, I'm Matthew Alvarez, Robert McNeely, and Megan Kohler. We'll be live in Warren, Michigan, starting at 12 p.m. Eastern Time. Before we continue, let's go to angelpaste.com in Spring, Texas. A great company, great product, and all you have to do is go to angelpaste.com and use that RSBN promo code for a percentage off of not only the Miracle Cream, there's other products on there as well. They hire military veterans, a great sponsor, and a loyal sponsor here at Right Side. I know Angel Pace has been with the network for quite some time. So great to see that here at Right Side. 8/22, Tuesday, April 29th. Let's talk about the upcoming programming schedule. So we see the press conference here in a few minutes today, and we also will see at 12 o'clock all throughout the day until President Trump's speech in the evening. Around 6 o'clock it's scheduled, but you're not going to want to miss all of the people outside of the venue in Michigan and the interactions, the fun interviews. I'm genuinely looking forward to watching the coverage, just like you are as a citizen, just like you are out there in the country and some places a part of the globe watches the network. And it is always fun to see all of us out there and those interviews and what people are saying about how great of a job President Trump is actually doing. That's not fake news. That's a fact. When you are bringing people to justice when it comes to arrests and deportation for criminal illegal aliens, and that makes safety in our country, that makes an increase of law and order. That in itself is great, right? How about our constitutional rights? How about all of the 20 core promises from President Trump? They're all at play right now with a cabinet that you're going to see tomorrow in a cabinet meeting right here on Right Side as well, just talking about common sense solutions for our country. It's not just a slogan. It's not just rhetoric. It's not just messaging. It's actually the actions speaking louder than the words. And that's what it's about. Somebody can tell you, hey, we're going to do this, but then their actions are totally different, right? That's not what's happening with this president and this cabinet, which is awesome to see that. In the meantime, so that cabinet meeting, not sure yet on what time it will be. We'll get the press guidance email from the Office of Communications at the White House. Usually we get that the night before or early morning hours, so stay tuned to, as they used to say, your local listings, but stay tuned to Right Side Broadcasting Network, whether it's on Truth or X or Rumble, YouTube, Facebook, our website, our app, wherever you follow, Getter. You can always check out when we have various coverage. So again, that's tomorrow, a cabinet meeting. And tomorrow night at 7 p.m. we'll air a special report from the White House. We were there just the other day, and I interviewed a number of White House officials just to celebrate more of the 100 days of accomplishments. It was quite something to be on the lawn of the White House, to return there and report for RSBN. So we'll have that tomorrow at 7 o'clock. On Thursday, President Trump will deliver a commencement address at the University of Alabama in Tuscaloosa. So we'll have that as well. So looking forward to the coverage coming up. But let's stay in today. You know, my buddy told me you got to stay in the now, right? Yeah, it's good to plan, but let's enjoy right now. So speaking of enjoying right now, so we're going to enjoy this press conference because it has everything to do with economic accomplishments from this White House since day one, which was about 100 days ago, 100 days, first 100 days of success in office. Then at 12 o'clock, we'll go out there to Michigan for Rally Day in America. Look forward to watching that coverage. Meantime, White House Deputy Chief of Staff of Policy, Stephen Miller, is an absolute national treasure. Let me say it one more time. Stephen Miller, I know a lot of you know who he is, but if you don't, check out Stephen Miller when it comes to X or when it comes to Truth Social or when it comes to when he's on camera or when he's at the side of the president in the Oval Office or outside of the White House along the so-called media row there. And the words that he speaks and how sharp he speaks, the messaging and the truth, it just slices right through, figuratively speaking, any of the fake news narratives that are happening out there. So about 100 days ago, he posted this on Truth Social. We don't have a graphic for it. It's quite the lengthy post, but I think it's, you know, pertinent to bring up because of the fact that, you know, Stephen Miller is a rock star, you know, for our country. Not just because he can speak great and he really is accurate. It's actually helping the American people and helping the narrative of truth be spread to the people of this country. And it's usually when you hear like propaganda or narrative, you think of bad things. Well, propaganda actually is messaging in a way, but it's not. There's false propaganda. I looked up the word the other day. I mean, at the end of the day, there's a true narrative and a false narrative. What's true? What's common sense? What's right? Well, that's what Stephen Miller is sharing with the American people. That's what Karoline Leavitt and President Trump are doing as well. Specifically, this is what I mean. Here is a true narrative. Here is a true statement brought to you by, again, none other than this great national treasure we have, Stephen Miller. The electoral landslide, this was 100 days ago on Truth Social, achieved by real Donald Trump, is not only the single greatest win in American political history, but in the modern history of civilization. Nothing else even comes close. This is unparalleled, unmatched, and unrivaled. He defeated the Bush dynasty, the Clinton dynasty, Cheney dynasty, Obama dynasty, Biden dynasty, and the entire corrupt machine behind Kamala Harris. He defeated every sinister Marxist prosecutor, every vile hoax, every DOJ witch hunt, every communist persecution, every illegal act of censorship and surveillance, and the ruthlessly politicized and weaponized justice system. Words from Stephen Miller some 100 days ago. He defeated the corrupt legacy media, the political class, the donor class, the pundit class. He defeated not one, but two Democrat nominees in their rigged primary. He defeated the corrupt Democrat Congress. He defied death itself and survived multiple assassination attempts. Trump did the impossible over and over and over again. The biggest victory ever seen. No comparison. Also on Truth Social, the president saying, quote, as we saw earlier, before I get to that, let me wrap up the statement there. That was from Stephen Miller some 100 days ago on Truth Social, talking about the great win by President Trump. As we are 100 days into this second administration, when you speak that truth and that light into darkness, the darkness doesn't know what to do. So they can only lie more or, you know, try something else in the playbook, but nothing's working. We know that God himself has protected, I believe, President Trump. God is protecting this country. However, we still have to stay vigilant out there. We still have to do our part. We still have to be smart, vote, speak up, you know, call your congressperson, you know, the basics of an everyday citizen of this country. Also within security, we've got great law enforcement out there finally being able to do the job that they wanted to do. We see that on the southern border. We see that. Think about the morale at police departments and maybe not some of the bigger cities, but, you know, throughout the country. sheriff's offices, sheriff's departments, the Customs and Border Protection, the 6 military branches. The morale must be a lot better because we have a commander-in-chief, the chief law enforcement officer, I think he said that one time, maybe a few months back. Having him at the helm is having the right coach in place, having the right leader, having the right quarterback, having the right captain, having the right go-to person to rely on. And on top of that, you can't just win with just Tom Brady. You have to have a great offensive line, running backs, wide receivers, a great defense, a great crowd behind them, a great coaching staff. Now we know maybe Tom Brady isn't the greatest comparison, even though he's a great quarterback. I mean, just name anybody that's great. Michael Jordan, Wayne Gretzky, Joe Montana, on and on and on. But having someone of that caliber, and we have that with President Trump, we have that with that all-star cast of cabinet, who we'll see tomorrow right here on Right Side. So, every time we do a report here, of course we cover, as you see there, the press conference at any minute. We'll be going there live as the Secretary of the Treasury, Scott Bessent, will highlight the economic accomplishments over the past 100 days. But the reason why, we speak with this kind of, passion, if you want to call it that way, is because there is an ongoing info war. So it's just information war, nothing else, just information. And we can constantly see what the left is trying to lie to with the American people on fake polls, as President Trump said earlier on Truth Social. So there are days that, we go at it like that, but there are days, of course, that we sit back and enjoy coverage, like today. A bit later today at 12 o'clock in Michigan, it's Rally Day in America. We'll have Robert McNeely and Megan Kohler there live. And before we get to that, we'll be going to this press conference there in Washington, D.C., a back-to-back White House press conference. As we saw one yesterday in the morning, we saw a second one that happened with the new media, which was the first of its kind yesterday. So this is the third press conference in less than 24 hours, or about 24 hours. Glad you're with us. I'm Matthew Alvarez. Thanks for streaming in. Let's go to one sponsor before we go there to the White House. It's Kalshi.com/RSBN. What will Trump say at the Macomb County rally? Well, China, the word egg, El Salvador, Hegseth. There you go. So you can bet, trade, all that kind of stuff right there on Kalshi.com/RSBN. A great website, and also they have a great app too, growing in popularity, a great sponsor here at Right Side Broadcasting Network, as it's 8:32, bottom of the hour. Tuesday, April 29th, 100 days in office for President Trump. We're celebrating that here at the network today and tomorrow, as we will have a report from the White House tomorrow, airing at 7 o'clock right here, 7 p.m. Eastern Time, as I interviewed a number of White House officials. We'll air that tomorrow. However, prior to that, we have two big events. Today's rally, of course, in Michigan, and then we'll have that cabinet meeting tomorrow as well. So a lot to watch here on the network. Definitely glad you're with us, and we're looking forward to, again, hearing from we the people outside of that venue in Warren, Michigan on RSBN. It is just something that over the past 9 years and counting, as this will be 10 years coming up this summer for Right Side Broadcasting Network, and to know that we've always been there for the rallies and the speeches and all of the events that have happened. And you guys have watched a lot of that there, especially a lot of you that are loyal viewers that are watching even right now. A lot of new viewers coming to Right Side Broadcasting Network, as people are starting to say, okay, you know what, enough of the blatant lies on the left. We have to find another news source. Well, there's conservative media is here and here to stay. As again, this is about freedom and we the people and our faith in God and our desire for freedom in the Constitution in this country. And we'll continue that all the way into the future. So looking forward to seeing it grow here at the network, but also within conservative media, we were seeing a lot more people just shift over. And it's great to see that. All right, so those of you watching on Rumble, thank you so much for streaming in on that great site. Those of you watching on other platforms, again, thank you for streaming in. We're going to be going there to Washington, D.C. as soon as we see Karoline Leavitt come out there with Scott Bessent, the Treasury Secretary, to highlight the accomplishments of the economy over the past 100 days. If you missed yesterday at all, it was all about the criminal illegal aliens there, as Tom Homan, the border czar, was at that podium with Karoline. Also, as you see the camera kind of pan to that blue door right there, every time now I think about the fact that the team led by Karoline, they pray in the name of Jesus right behind that door. And there she is, I think. I'm wrong. Would have been a dramatic entrance right there. But the point is, it's great when we pray and we go out there and just get it done for the country. And that's what happens with this White House. And you know, we have at the White House, when I say that, I mean as a country, have a faith office at the White House. And I actually interviewed the director of the White House Faith Office. You'll have that interview on Wednesday night at 7 o'clock, along with a number of other White House officials. So look forward to airing that coming up just about 30 or so hours from now. But until then, of course, we have a lot of coverage to get to in Michigan today. Again, that starts at 12 Eastern. We'll be live there in Michigan with Robert McNeely and Megan Kohler. And then also outside of that, if there's any breaking news, we'll have it for you. I do think I saw a report that President Trump will be speaking around 4 o'clock as well. I believe what I saw was to the Michigan National Guard. I believe we'll have that in its entirety as well on that feed, that stream with the Michigan rally. So a lot you don't want to miss today, of course, on this Tuesday, April 29th. And for those of you that just joined us, Director, if we could, I don't know if we could triple box this or we could show it just real quick. That post from President Trump, it's kind of perfect because a lot of the fake news is in there. Again, you know, these are colleagues. If I was in that press room, I'd be friendly and all, but I wouldn't be agreeing with any of their content. But the president earlier today, about 9 hours ago, saying the polls from the fake news are, like the news itself, fake. We are doing great, better than ever before. As you see it on the bottom left of your screen right there, President Trump saying the polls from the fake news are like the news itself, fake. We are doing great, better than ever before. And he's referring to polls from ABC, Washington Post, and the AP who put out links or online articles, separate ones, talking about President Trump's job performance and the polls that they had from people saying, oh, he's not doing this and that. It's a bunch of crap. It's not true. And President Trump's calling it out. I'm calling it out because, that's our job. We got to stand up for truth, right? Or stand up for really what's happening. And it was unfortunate because those links were on the Drudge Report, which is seen by quite a number of people, but a lot of people in conservative media and others are just turning off not only the fake news from the channels, but also online, like the Drudge Report. Everything on there is a bunch of hogwash. It's terrible. Every link that when you go scroll there, you know what? If you want to, go ahead on Drudge Report just today, a little bit later, or now on your phone if you're watching on the TV, and just look at it. You'll know what I'm talking about. It's basically CNN, MSNBC all over again. It's unfortunate that the Drudge Report has gone that way. I mean, they probably were that way the whole time, maybe. Anyway, but the thing that's great is you have another option. You have conservative media. And by the grace of God and the protection of God and the power of God, conservative media is here to stay for good, especially in the United States of America. And for those journalists that are out there, hosts, anchors, reporters, correspondents, all of the above, to speak on the right side of history. There are a number of people out there doing some great things, Nick Shirley being one of them. Let's go to Washington.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Happy first 100 days. Before we begin, I want to acknowledge that the bipartisan Take It Down Act passed the House last night. This important legislation was championed and guided through Congress by our wonderful First Lady, Melania Trump, including through her direct advocacy on behalf of survivors during her passage efforts. The Take It Down Act criminalizes the publication of non-consensual intimate imagery and requires social media and similar websites to remove such content within 48 hours of notice from a victim. The First Lady thanks all those who voted in favor of this important legislation, and the President looks forward to signing it when it arrives on his desk. Today officially marks 100 days of promises made and promises kept by President Trump. This has truly been the most historic start to a presidency in American history. After building the greatest economy in the world in his first term as president, President Trump is in the process of doing that all over again. The American people trust in President Trump. Since his first day in office, President Trump has focused on defeating the Biden inflation crisis, bringing down the cost of living, and making the United States the best place in the world to do business, invest, create jobs, and innovate. And President Trump's efforts are working. 345,000 jobs have already been added since the start of President Trump's term. Last month's jobs report saw nearly 100,000 more jobs than economists predicted, and it was the fourth highest month for private payroll growth in the past 2 years. 9,000 manufacturing jobs have been added to the economy already. This is a sharp contrast to the 6,000 manufacturing jobs that were lost each month in the final 2 years of the Biden administration. The U.S. employment rate remains at historic lows. And thanks to President Trump, Americans are seeing price relief for the first time in years. The last inflation report showed the first consumer price decline since the COVID pandemic, a decrease in energy prices, and real average hourly wage growth. President Trump is delivering on his promises to lower costs for American families and businesses. Prices across the board for everyday goods have seen declines since this president was inaugurated. From airfare to used motor vehicles to prescription drugs, prices are dropping. In fact, last month's drop in the price of prescription drugs was the largest ever recorded. And after Joe Biden botched the response to the bird flu, President Trump and Secretary Rollins' aggressive plan have brought down wholesale egg prices more than 50% from Inauguration Day. President Trump ended Joe Biden's reckless war on American energy and fossil fuels and has restored American energy dominance. And Secretary Wright, Secretary Doug Burgum are working hard on that effort every single day. Oil and gas prices are now way down because of this bold approach. Gasoline prices down 7%. Energy prices are also down as well. The Department of Interior just announced a new offshore drilling policy that will boost oil production in the Gulf of America by 100,000 barrels per day. On the deregulation front, President Trump is committed to cutting senseless red tape, especially for America's small business owners who are the backbone of our economy. We know cutting regulation leads to lower costs and higher growth. The mass deregulation effort by this administration will help usher in the golden age of America, which is underway. Immediately upon taking office, President Trump blocked all of the unfinalized Biden-era rules, saving Americans more than $100 billion, or $2,100 per family of four over the next decade. And the president also launched a bold multi-agency effort to roll back existing federal regulations that drive up the cost of living on hardworking families. This effort is projected to yield significant cost savings in the coming months, including the EPA's rollback of tailpipe emission rules for light-duty and medium-duty vehicles and the Department of Transportation's latest corporate average fuel economy standards. These two efforts alone yield $755 billion in total savings, or more than $8,800 per family of four over the next decade. In total, the combined savings from all of these actions equal just over $935 billion, or nearly $11,000 in real savings per family of four per the coming decade. The press is not talking nearly enough about the positive impact of President Trump's deregulation campaign. And investments from the biggest companies and countries in the world are pouring in under this president. So far, total investment commitments under the Trump administration have reached more than $5 trillion, including $500 billion from Apple in U.S.-based manufacturing and training, $500 billion from NVIDIA and AI infrastructure, $100 billion from TSMC and U.S.-based chips manufacturing, and the $500 billion private investment by OpenAI, Oracle, and SoftBank in AI infrastructure as well. All of these investment commitments are estimated to generate at least 451,000 new high-paying jobs for American workers and families. At this point, President Trump has secured more investments in the United States of America in 100 days than Joe Biden did in 4 years. President Trump is America's businessman in chief, and that's why these trillions of dollars in investments are flooding to our country. The business community is bullish on America because President Trump is back in charge. Tomorrow, the president will host CEOs and leaders from several companies that have made these investments to tout their historic commitments to our country and encourage others to follow suit. Under President Trump, there has never been a better time to invest in America. And the president finally said enough is enough and refused to allow America and our workers to be ripped off any longer on trade. President Trump implemented powerful tariffs to end the era of economic surrender and to rebalance America's trading agreements. More than 100 countries have already come to the table looking to offer more favorable terms for America and our people. There has never been a president who has created his own leverage like this president, and we are just getting started. Republicans in Congress are getting very close to passing President Trump's one big, beautiful bill, which will include the largest tax cuts in American history, strong border security measures, major military advancements, dramatic deregulation, and common sense spending reforms. As President Trump has said before, the best is yet to come. For more on President Trump's economic successes so far and the plans ahead, I want to pass it off to our incredible Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, who is here today, and we will open it up to questions. In our new media seat, we have Brendan Peterson, the financial services reporter for Punchbowl News. Punchbowl News covers power, people, and politics based in Washington, D.C. Laser focus on Capitol Hill, the politics of legislating, founded in 2021, and it is the first newsletter that Capitol Hill and the White House reads every morning in the middle of the day and throughout the evening. Thanks for being here with us, and we'll start with you today.
Thanks so much for being here. I have a question for Secretary Bessent. On tariffs, the president said over the weekend that we are hoping that maybe tariff revenues could replace income tax. But we also keep hearing about the deals that the administration is pursuing. So my question is, what is the White House's ultimate objective here? Do you want to have long-term tariff revenue or deals that might reduce those tariffs?
I think it's a combination of both. So we're going to take in long-term tariff revenue. We put a process in place. We have 18 important trading relationships. We will be speaking to all of those partners, or at least 17 of them, over the next few weeks. Many of them have already come to Washington. What President Trump is referring to is the ability for tariff revenue to give income tax relief. And I think there's a very good chance that we will see this in the upcoming tax bill. The president campaigned on no tax on tips, no tax on Social Security, no tax on overtime, and the restoring interest deductibility for autos, for American-made autos. So tariff income could be used for tax relief on all those immediately.
So you think that there is a role for significant tariff revenue in U.S. fiscal policy?
I think that it is something that got put away a long time ago, and I think that tariffs will bring back American manufacturing and generate substantial revenues.
On manufacturing, we've seen some pretty grisly surveys this month from the Philly Fed, which saw the biggest drop since May of 2020, and the Dallas Fed, similar plunging outlook, poor shipping orders. What are American manufacturers not understanding about your push for onshoring in the U.S.?
Well, I think I was in the investment business 35 years, and I learned to ignore the survey data and look at the actual data, and the actual data has been quite good. The job data is good. Americans keep spending, and as Karoline said, we have these incredible commitments to bring manufacturing back on shore with record investment by domestic corporations and foreigners who want to come into the U.S.
Thank you so much, Karoline. Thank you, Mr. Secretary. The Chinese continue to say that the U.S. and China are not engaged in any consultation or negotiation on tariffs. You recently said you've talked to your counterpart, but more about, quote, traditional things like financial stability. So can you clarify, is the administration talking to Beijing specifically about tariffs or not?
Well, we're not going to talk about who's talking to whom, but I think that, over time we will see that the Chinese tariffs are unsustainable for China. I've seen some very large numbers over the past few days to show if these numbers stay on, Chinese could lose 10 million jobs very quickly, and even if there is a drop in the tariffs, that they could lose 5 million jobs. So remember that we are the deficit country. They sell almost 5 times more goods to us than we sell to them. So the onus will be on them to take off these tariffs. They're unsustainable for them.
And they are saying you guys are not talking about it. So is that true?
Look, they have a different form of government. They're playing to a different audience. So I'm not going to get into the nitty-gritty, again, of who's talking to whom. But as I said, I believe for the Chinese, these tariffs are unsustainable.
And very quickly, 2 days ago, you said you didn't know if President Trump had spoken to Xi Jinping. Do you know now?
Again, I would say Karoline and I have a lot of jobs around the White House. Running the switchboard isn't one of them.
Bloomberg, go ahead. Secretary Bessent, thank you so much for being here this morning. You've talked about the importance of giving investors certainty when it comes to the market, yet the Trump administration is continuing to negotiate several complex trade deals in a very sort of compressed time frame. When do you expect you'll be able to give the market some certainty around those deals? Do you have a deadline? Is it the 90-day pause? What are we looking at here?
Good question. And I think one thing that has been a little disconcerting for the markets is, President Trump creates what I would call strategic uncertainty in the negotiations. So he is more concerned about getting the best possible trade deals for the American people. We had 4 years of bad deals for decades of unfair trading, and we are going to unwind those and make them fair. What we are doing is we've created a process. I think the aperture of uncertainty will be narrowing, and as we start moving forward announcing deals, then there will be certainty. But certainty is not necessarily a good thing in negotiating.
Mr. Secretary, last night there were reports on the administration sort of walking back a little bit on the auto tariffs. Can you sort of just elaborate on that decision there and what we can expect going forward, and why sort of the shift in those auto tariffs?
Well, President Trump has had meetings with both domestic and foreign auto producers, and he's committed to bringing back auto production to the U.S. So we want to give the automakers a path to do that quickly, efficiently, and create as many jobs as possible.
Jasmine. Thank you so much, Caroline. Thank you, Secretary. Back from China, does the administration anticipate supply chain shocks or supply shocks coming now that cargo shipments from China are significantly down? And if so, are there plans in the process of how to address that?
I wouldn't think that we would have supply chain shocks, and I think retailers have managed their inventory in front of this. I speak to dozens of companies, sometimes daily, but definitely weekly, and they know that President Trump is committed to fair trade and have planned accordingly.
And then second question, can you outline the timeline for when you think some of these deals, particularly with your Asian countries like India, Japan, South Korea, you may have an announcement?
I'm glad you brought up our Asian trading partners and allies. They have been the most forthcoming in terms of doing the deals. As I mentioned, Vice President Vance was in India last week. I think that he and Modi made some very good progress, so I could see some announcements on India. I could see the contours of a deal with the Republic of Korea coming together, and then we've had substantial talks with the Japanese.
Andrea?
Secretary Bessent, just continuing on the path of the sort of progress. You said yesterday, I think, that it was could happen as early as this week or possibly next week. Can you give us a bit of a timetable? And then I wanted to ask about South Korea specifically. They've said that they probably won't be able to make a comprehensive deal until early July because of their elections. Japan also has elections. And to what extent are domestic factors complicating your efforts? Canada just had an election. Are you seeing that you might have to think about delaying the 90 days?
Well, I would actually take the opposite tack, that I think from our talks that these governments actually want to have the framework of a trade deal done before they go into elections to show that they have successfully negotiated with the United States. So we are finding that they are actually much more keen to come to the table, get this done, and then go home and campaign on it.
Sean.
I'm sorry, did you have a comment on whether something could happen this week or next week? For a deal. So, you said yesterday.
I think that we are very close on India. And in India, just a little inside baseball, India, in a funny way, is easier to negotiate with than many other countries because they have very high tariffs and lots of tariffs. So it's much easier to confront the direct tariffs when, as we go through these unfair trade deals that have been put in over decades, that the non-tariff trade barriers can be much more insidious and also harder to detect. So a country like India, which has the posted and ready tariffs, it's much easier to negotiate with them. So I think the India negotiations are moving well.
Sean, go ahead.
Hi, Mr. Secretary. So it was reported this morning that Amazon will soon display a little number next to the price of each product that shows how much the Trump tariffs are adding to the cost of each product. So isn't that a perfect crystal clear demonstration that it's the American consumer and not China who is going to have to pay for these policies?
I will take this since I just got off the phone with the president about Amazon's announcement. This is a hostile and political act by Amazon. Why didn't Amazon do this when the Biden administration hiked inflation to the highest level in 40 years? And I would also add that it's not a surprise because, as Reuters recently wrote, Amazon has partnered with a Chinese propaganda arm. So this is another reason why Americans should buy American. It's another reason why we are onshoring critical supply chains here at home to shore up our own critical supply chain and boost our own manufacturing here.
Is Jeff Bezos still a Trump supporter?
Look, I will not speak to the president's relationships with Jeff Bezos, but I will tell you that this is certainly a hostile and political action by Amazon. And Secretary, if you have anything to add.
Yeah, I would also add that the bringing down the terrible Biden inflation has been a priority for the first 100 days of the Trump administration, and President Trump has done a great job of leading that since January 20th. Interest rates, mortgage rates are down, gasoline and energy prices are down. We're expecting the further decreases. And as Karoline said, the big tax on consumers that goes unnoticed is deregulation or regulation, and we are deregulating and bringing that down. So, from a household income point of view, we would expect real purchasing increases. We've seen them over the first 100 days, and we would expect that to accelerate. We are doing peace deals, trade deals, tax deals, and deregulating. And the deregulation is a longer lead time, but I think by the third and fourth quarters, that's really going to kick in.
Kelly, go ahead. Thank you, Caroline. A question for you and Secretary Bessent. We talk a lot about volatility and uncertainty in the marketplace, and the president has stated all along that he's more concerned about mainstream America, the American worker. You just talked about deregulation and this entire fair trade and reciprocals. What is your message to the American people in terms of letting them get through this disturbance and the outcome being greater and a greater good for the American worker, the American people, the American families?
I would say trust in President Trump. There's a reason he was reelected to this office. It's because of the historic success of his economic formula in the first term. And as I laid out at the beginning of the briefing and the Secretary has talked about and the President talks about every day, there's a proven formula that works. Massive deregulation, energy independence, and tax cuts, which are coming. And the Secretary is working very hard on that with our counterparts on Capitol Hill. If you want to talk about that, that's a huge deal to put more money back into the pockets of hardworking Americans. As for the fair trade deals the President is trying to negotiate, he's not just righting the wrong of the mess that he inherited from the past 4 years of the Biden administration. This is a mess that has been created for the past 4 decades that has sold out the middle class, that has moved moved jobs overseas. You think about our heartland, middle America, what towns used to look like, what they look like today. President Trump wants to restore the golden age, and it's a process to do that. And that process is underway, but he's put together a fantastic trade team. Secretary Bessent, Secretary Lutnick, Jamieson Greer, all working incredibly hard on this effort 24/7. But tax cuts are coming, and that's key. And Mr. Secretary, why don't you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so it's really a three-legged stool in the economic policy. It's trade, it's tax, and it's deregulation. So we are in the midst of addressing, as Karoline said, these long-term trade imbalances. The tax bill is going much better than I would have thought when I took office on January 28th, and that's through President Trump's leadership. That Speaker Johnson, Leader Thune are united. Speaker Johnson, we had a very good meeting yesterday with somebody called the Big Six, NEC Director Kevin Hassett, myself, Speaker Johnson, Leader Thune, Committee Chairman Jason Smith, and Senator Crapo. And the tax bill is moving forward. It is going to give permanence to the 2017 Tax Cuts and Job Act, which will, back to the question on certainty, it will give American business certainty, it will give American people certainty, and then President Trump is also adding the things for working Americans that is talked about earlier: no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, no tax on Social Security, making auto payments deductible. So that will substantially address the affordability crisis. And the other thing that I would note, and back to data, is that the Vanguard, one of the largest money management firms in America, said that over the past 100 days, 97% of Americans haven't done a trade. And in fact, individual investors have held tight while institutional investors have panicked. So individual investors trust, investors trust President Trump.
Megan, in the back.
Can you detail for us exactly what we should expect as far as relief on the auto tariffs front? And then further, Mr. Secretary, should we expect other industries to also get relief the way we've now seen for auto and tech as well?
I'm not going to go into the details of the auto tariff relief, but I can tell you that it will go substantially toward reshoring American auto manufacturing. And again, the goal here is to bring back the high-quality industrial jobs to the U.S. President Trump is interested in the jobs of the future, not the jobs of the past. We don't need to necessarily have a booming textile industry like where I grew up again, but we do want to have precision manufacturing and bring that back. And another important, very important function of this that does not get talked about enough is national security. President Trump, his overriding concern and belief is that economic security is national security is economic security. And we saw during COVID that our supply chains got cut off. And we need to bring back a lot of those supply chains, whether it's in semiconductors, medicines, the steel. And we have to onshore those. So it's a combination of making trade free and fair and remedying this gaping national security hole that he was left with.
I would just add, Megan, the president will sign the executive order on auto tariffs later today, and we will release it as we always do. Go ahead.
Secretary, any updates on the negotiation with the European Union, and is it hard to negotiate with the European Union?
Pardon?
Do you have any updates on the negotiation with the European Union?
I'm more involved in the Asian negotiations. My observation goes all the way back to Henry Kissinger's statement, when I call Europe, who do I call? So we're negotiating with a lot of different interests. Some of the European countries have put on an unfair digital service tax on our big internet provider. France and Italy, other countries, Germany and Poland, don't have that. So we want to see that unfair tax of one of America's great industries removed. So it's going to be a give and take So they have some internal matters to decide before they can engage in an external negotiation.
Edward.
Yeah, thanks, Caroline. Mr. Secretary, so contacts I have in the business community say that they're basically frozen for long-term investment because of the uncertainty around tariffs. How long do you think President Trump has to make a deal before there's damage to the economy?
Look, I think that what we're seeing is that business leaders, they've gone into a pause, and I think we're going to give them great certainty on this tax bill. And I think over the next couple of weeks, as I said, we have 18 important trading relationships. We'll put China to the side. 17 they are in motion. And then, as I said yesterday, I think there's a very good chance we're going to get this tax bill done. And the tax bill is going to be very powerful for domestic U.S. investment. So what we are going to do, one of the most powerful parts of President Trump's 2017 tax bill was full expensing of equipment. We are going to make that, as President Trump said in his speech to Congress, that will be retroactive to January 20th. The other thing that we are looking to add is full expensing for factories. So bring your factory back. You can fully expense the equipment and the building. We will couple that with deregulation, cheap energy, and regulatory certainty, and that will continue to make the U.S. the greatest destination for domestic and foreign investment.
And the president, well, if I could follow, just the president said that world leaders would like to meet with him in Rome, in Vatican City, about trade. Other than President Zelensky, who did the president meet with, and about trade, and when could we get some of those deals?
The president met with President Zelensky, as you know, which we talked about, and the president continues to be engaged with his fellow leaders around the world in the European Union. You've seen many of them visit the White House. I want to harp on, in closing, the point the Secretary just made. On the campaign trail, the president promised the American public that he was going to make America the best country in the world to do business again. The lowest taxes, lowest regulation, lowest energy costs of anywhere in the world. And if you do business in the United States, you won't pay a tariff, you won't pay a price. That's not just good for companies around the world, but it's good for the American worker. That's what this team is focused so hard on every day. We have work to do. The golden age of America is underway. But as I pointed out in the beginning, there's a lot of reason for the American consumer, the American CEO, the American small business owner to be confident and optimistic about this president and where we're headed. So you will hear more from the president himself later this evening. He is traveling to Michigan, as you all know. He'll make a stop at the Air Force Base with Governor Whitmer, and then we will head to a rally tonight where you'll hear more from him directly. So we'll see you in Michigan. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Caroline.
All right, there you go. 9:07 Eastern Time out there on the West Coast, 6:07. Thanks so much for streaming in for this White House press briefing. Again, at 12 p.m. Eastern, that will be the beginning of our coverage from Michigan as it's rally day in that state. We'll be live there on the ground. Looking forward to that coverage. We'll see you at 12 o'clock. In the meantime, I want to thank a few sponsors, including Colonial Metals Group. freegoldguide.com/RSBN is the place to go for Colonial Metals Group. You'll get that free info kit. Also, angelpaste.com. Use the RSBN promo code out of Spring, Texas with some great products, angelpaste.com. Also, callsheet.com/RSBN. What will President Trump say at the Macomb County rally? Well, there you go. You have a few choices there. Some great questions on there as well. callsheet.com/RSBN. We'll see you at 12 p.m. noon Eastern Time, 9 a.m. Pacific Time for Rally Day in Michigan.
Welcome to Right Side Broadcasting Network, your trusted conservative news outlet. At RSBN, we deliver the truth when the mainstream media falls short. Since 2015, we've proudly broadcasted every single one of President Trump's iconic MAGA rallies, bringing you the excitement and energy live before anyone else. By watching RSBN, you get an unfiltered front row view of the action on the ground. We interview the crowds to give a voice to millions of Americans just like you. We show you President Trump's speeches in their entirety, free from interruptions and censorship. We cover the stories that matter to you with the integrity and passion you deserve. Thank you for choosing RSBN as your home for America First News. Together, we stand strong, united, and informed. So join us and be part of the right side of history.
President Trump is keeping his promises and saving America. And your kids can learn all about it for free with a new Kids Guide to President Trump. This fun guide shows kids all the steps President Trump is taking to put America back on top of the world stage, including building a strong economy, protecting our borders, and negotiating trade deals. It's an exciting way for kids to learn about President Trump's outstanding leadership. Act now and get a free bonus guide, The Courage of the President. Order now at freetrumpbook.com. That's freetrumpbook.com.
Hey y'all, it's Silk from the Diamond and Silk Chit Chat live show. Look, don't forget to check me out right here on RSBN Network. Be sure to watch the show on Right Side Broadcasting Network, and I want you to support Right Side Broadcasting Network. Yes, it's imperative that you do so, okay? I look to see y'all soon. Bye-bye.
Hello, everyone. I'm excited to announce the next generation of energy drinks, Rev 7. It has no sugar and no caffeine. Instead, Rev 7 uses Go BHB. Go BHB is one of the body's primary ketones, and it provides the most efficient and clean fuel that your body needs. It also helps you stay energized all day with no crashes. Not only that, it produces 3 times more brain energy than sugar, which helps boost your memory, focus, and mental sharpness. It also helps reduce stress and helps balance your mood. Rev 7 does all that while being the best tasting energy drink ever. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to save 20% today. I'm so sure you're going to love Rev 7. For a limited time, you get our introductory 3-pack absolutely free. I drink Rev 7 every day, and I absolutely love it, and so will you.